How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Barely There podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Barely There Pod. I'm Duke Coughlin. You can follow me at that pod guy Duke. I'm joined by Lucas Perfetti. You can follow him at Lucas Perfetti 46. Lucas, we have made it through the worst fucking point of the offseason, like the absolute worst. That moment between OTAs to training camp, we are finally here. We have people who have reported. Jaquan Brisker is signed on the dotted line. He is a Chicago Bear. Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn have both reported to camp. Whether or not they'll be practicing full-time has yet to be seen, but we finally made it, buddy. How you feeling, Lucas?
I'm feeling good, man. We actually have the Hall of Fame game in like 2 weeks. So actually, no, it's August 3rd. Today's July 27th. We have it in like a week from tomorrow, I believe. So definitely great. I'm happy speculation season's over. We're actually going to give some live coverage here on a few of these days from the account. So I'm pretty pumped up. I'm actually at an airport. I'm coming back from a work trip. So if you see people walking behind me, don't be alarmed if you're tuned in live or watching the YouTube rerun. Or if you hear like some random screaming, that's not me. I swear, it's what's in the background. That's why I got a polo on. You never see this. I'm actually shocked though because I'm not wearing a hat because of this work trip. This is the first time I've seen you without a hat. Is that because you got a fresh little fade or what?
Yeah, no, this is I just got this not too long ago. This is how my hair normally is whenever I get a haircut, but like I just hit a point where either it's too damn hot out, so my hair just frizzes up, so I just wear a hat. But no, man, it's nice, dude. You're looking fresh. Guy behind you walking by mean mug the absolute hell out of you, but I have to imagine that's what it's like recording a podcast in an airport.
It's not an ideal situation, but that's the kind of dedication I have to this show.
Yeah, no, dude, it's unfiltered, man. Like the same way Matt Eberflus dips his balls in au jus just every morning is ritual. Lucas Perfetti is here every Wednesday recording Barely There. So I mean, you can't question the heart that's given into this. But anyway, jumping right into the show, man. It's been a pretty crazy last few days, if we're being totally honest with you. There's quite a bit to unpack here. But number one is the Chicago Bears finally shored up some offensive line help. And not only that, but like two pretty solid contributors, man. Pretty consistent individuals in offensive tackle Reily Reiff and tackle guard Michael Schofield. He moves inside and outside. The Chicago Bears signed Reily Reiff to a $12.5 million contract, and that was something that really kind of popped off to a lot of people. But between both Reily Reiff and Michael Schofield, who both signed on one-year deals, only takes up just over $3 million in cap room. So that's a pretty good working of the cap, if I do say so myself. There was money that wasn't being spent anyway by Ryan Poles. Some people wonder why it took so long, but how you feel about some of these moves, Lucas?
I mean, honestly, so it started with the Schofield move, and that was like oh yeah, seems like a Poles move, really kind of like a vet minimum guy, kind of overperformed for what his contract is, to be honest. And I liked it, to be honest. But then the Reiff move came in, and that was kind of, if you remember a few weeks ago, I was freaking out about like, hey, just give me one guy, right? Like, that's how I feel about Reiff. Like, he's that one guy that I've been begging for.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah, sorry, man. No, for sure. And kind of highlighting Michael Schofield for a minute. This is a guy who has always been pretty solid in run blocking and pass blocking. Not a guy who gets a lot of penalties. Very good at not holding or false starts or anything like that. Obviously, those are penalties that are going to happen for any offensive lineman in the league. But last year, he held it down to just 3. And this is him playing over the course of 15 games for LA. He's a guy who can play inside, outside. Obviously, you're going to stick him on the right side because that's where he's played a considerable amount of his career. One thing that hasn't been discussed really enough was he was actually the starter for Denver's last Super Bowl when they played Carolina. And he started all 16 games that season, started every game of the playoffs, played 100% of the snaps. So, I mean, obviously that's a little bit ago, but that's a pretty solid contributor. And he stayed busy on NFL rosters throughout the course of his career so far. So I think that was just like a really like safe signing. I think that was a guy who maybe flew a little bit under a lot of people's radars. He didn't necessarily have a big name, but he's a local guy, has a good pedigree, and brings some like bring some veteran stability, and then when you kind of turn over to Reily Reiff, a more familiar name, guy who's played for, well, now every NFC North team except for the Green Bay Packers, which hopefully that doesn't change anytime soon. Former first round pick, so he has that pedigree kind of behind him. And dude, another solid contributor. He's never missed. He's always played at least 12 games throughout his entire career. Is a pretty solid contributor in his own self. Never been a big penalized guy. Kind of similar to what I said about Michael Schofield, dude. Doesn't give up a lot of sacks. Only gave up 4 sacks last year. Working the edge, that's going to happen. You know what I mean? And penalties, he only had one. And I believe it was a false start. So those are 2 really solid contributing pieces. And a guy like Reily Reiff, who probably had a considerable market, not necessarily the loudest or anything like that, to be able to get him with only $3 million on the books, that works out pretty well in the Bears' favor. And I would be shocked personally if he was not our week 1 starter at left tackle, and as well as Schofield at right guard, unless something really kind of falls out for him at camp. So
yeah, no, it's going to be the right guard, and thank God, because I'm tired of hearing fucking Bears Twitter freak out about a right guard all offseason. The left tackle is the most important position, and that's why I'm excited about Reily Reiff, right? Like, Schofield's a great addition. The fact that they've had 4 penalties between the 2 of them last year, like, that's huge. The Bears' offensive line was penalized a ton, just in general, like offensive penalties, illegal formations, illegal shifts, like all that shit. Like, you'd have to hope it all got cleaned up, because, I mean, in the Matt Nagy era, a 5-yard penalty on first down, it was like, you're not going to get that first down now. You know what I mean? Like, any movement backwards, you're not going to cancel that out. So, no, I'm really excited about Reiff. And like I said, he's that big signing that you want. How old is he? He's like 31, right? He's not like old, but definitely not young. Because I will say that's probably the oldest person he's signed, which is nice that he's been kind of.
So Riley's actually 33.
33. Okay, so
he does have a bit of age. He came into the league at 24, though, so that kind of works against him as well. It's not necessarily mileage on his body as much as it was him coming into the league a little late. Kind of similar to our boy Velus Jones.
Velus Jones
take over the league this year.
He's got some backpack fundraiser going on, so if you're able to make it, definitely go to that. He's already helping the community. You gotta love it. Velus, the GOAT Junior. No, yeah, but that's kind of like what I was saying with that big signing. But to me, I think it's kind of peculiar that they waited until now to sign him. Like, maybe there was a market and they were competing and they had to outbid somebody. And then, hey, kudos to Ryan Poles for that, because I'm not going to lie, I've just been a little skeptical about the guy since, like, I was patient and I'm still patient. Like I always said, I got to see what the roster is for 2023 opening day. Like, who is on the field then? Because then we'll kind of get a real good grasp of how he likes to do things. But so far, he's kind of shown, hey, we're not signing anyone over the age of 28, 29 years old. Like, and even if then, we're going to sign him to a 1-year deal. So I like that he kind of strayed from his traditional style from what we've seen so far and went and shored up that left tackle spot. Because at the end of the day, this season, the most important thing this season is seeing growth from Justin Fields. And if you have a bunch of, unproven receivers and then one guy who has exceeded his draft position in Darnell Mooney, who we both love, but like we still don't have the greatest receiving core, even with N'Keal Harry. So it's like, it's one thing if we're seeing Justin Fields make throws that maybe get dropped or guys aren't in the right spot or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you can still see the progress that way, but you can't see it if he doesn't have enough time to get the ball off. So that's, like, to me, I'm happy, but it makes me wonder, like, why did you wait till the first day of training camp, you know what I mean, to sign both of these guys? Like, did you really find out that much in OTAs and in mini camp that you were able to figure out, like, okay, we don't have what it takes, so now we need to go and sign someone? Like, I just feel like it would have been better to have them, I don't know, man, sleepy fucking Poles, dude. Every signing's made at 9 p.m. We don't know what time this guy wakes up. We heard he was showing up to the building at 5 a.m., like on his first day, or 4 a.m., whatever it was. Maybe it's because he just got off his Call of Duty, because he wakes up at 7 p.m. and just like was hammering out Call of Duty for 8 hours and got on there. Because at the end of the day, dude, I've never seen anything like that where every single signing comes through at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Maybe he is working all night, but that's just, it's odd to me.
Yeah, no, and I think those are all very reasonable, realistic concerns, I think a lot of teams and a lot of fan bases would agree with this. Like, you want to have kind of an idea of what your roster is going to be before the start of training camp, like cutting it really freaking close. Like, I like both these signings, and like, I don't want to necessarily give Poles a pass on this, but I'm really glad we brought them in just to be camp bodies and to, put a little fire under guys like Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum. Because I think that's the biggest thing that bothered me throughout OTAs. Like, while I'm a big fan of both of them, like, I genuinely think they have a lot of upside. I really like Tevin's tenacity, obviously, but that doesn't always translate on the field. Like, it kind of felt like early on, if we hadn't made a move, that we were just kind of handing the keys to some younger guys.
And they are nowhere near proven enough to just hand them starting roles in a new regime. Like, they're just not. They're nowhere near storied enough. Like, you only give starting spots to guys like a Roquan Smith, like a Robert Quinn, or someone of that caliber, Darnell Mooney, like someone that's more proven. You can't give it to a guy that got blasted on film and was a second round pick last year, and then a guy that came back from injury and just had a little bit of upside to him, but really struggled at the end of the year. So they were moves that were necessary to make.
Yeah, well, and I just, to kind of finish up my point there, it's just, I'm glad we're not handing the keys over to anybody just without them proving it. Honestly, kind of moving into a little bit of what Matt Eberflus was saying today, as it relates to this topic. When asked about like who is set starters on the offensive lineman, like, people are trying to kind of lay it out, like, is Lucas Patrick at center or Cody Whitehair left guard, like, are those set positions? And he didn't really commit to that. He kind of had to think about his answer for a minute, because I think he wanted to kind of toe the line of not upsetting veterans while, still kind of giving the idea of competition. But, like, I like that idea that nothing is being handed to these guys. Because, like I was saying, dude, I like Tevin Jenkins, I like Larry Borum, but, like, we need to be able to see more from them. And I think this battle at right tackle is really going to bring out the best of both of these guys. You know what I mean? And that's still a position at right tackle that Michael Schofield can move over and play. You know what I mean? If worst case scenario, we hit a point where neither of these guys are really producing on the field.
But, or just even injury, right? Like,
yeah,
you got to bring Mustipher in because you don't want to go pick up a street free agent. Like, bring Mustipher in to guard. I mean, hey, man, like, it could be worse. We've seen worse. We've seen Rashad Coward. So, like, if there are injuries and you do need to make a little bit of a shuffle, it's nice to have that versatility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think that that's going to bode well in case something were to happen. Because, like, we can't, and this is kind of part of what your rants were about the last few weeks, is like, we cannot gamble Justin Fields' health on Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins panning out. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be a legit earning of your spot. And that's what I kind of feel like Eberflus is really kind of pushing. So getting to see Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum battle at right tackle and really battle for that swing tackle position as well, because I think the way Matt Eberflus has been describing that position, he's brought that up on his own quite a few times. It seems like something that's going to be utilized quite a bit on the offensive line to kind of bring in extra protection, especially if we're going to hit heavy sets with a fullback and kind of hit points where we really decide to run the football, especially in goal line situations.
Well, I mean, dude, the top two run blocking wide receivers of last year are now on the Chicago Bears. Like, Byron Pringle was second and N'Keal Harry was first, if I'm not mistaken.
And I don't think that's an accident.
No, absolutely not. We're running fucking heavy.
Yeah, and I think that bodes insanely well. Our boy Edward, actually, I was talking to him on Twitter. He brought up kind of the Browns offense with Kevin Stefanski, of how he rolls out with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb quite a bit. So, like, that idea I really like. I've always been a big run the football type guy, especially if you have the talent at those positions. So really, depth on the offensive line is there's just nothing but positives coming from these offensive line signings. It's going to be really interesting to see who shows up at right tackle, and it's really interesting that Matt Eberflus made a point to say specifically that Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins were only working at right tackle. So I think that kind of shows that Reily Reiff will be the left tackle moving forward. Was getting some of the snaps with the first team, even just after getting signed yesterday. But that's another reason why I didn't really love that polls waited this long, was I want to get these guys integrated with the offensive playbook, which would have been a great time during OTAs to do that. And now
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's like
a solid month behind everybody else.
That's why it still doesn't make sense. And to be honest, like, I don't think O-line assignments are nearly as bad as learning the playbook as a quarterback or a receiver or even a tight end. Like, I do think it's kind of like, hey, you cover your gap, especially in a zone blocking scheme. But, like, Dude, that's what bothers me the most about the sitting and waiting. Like, I want to know how much did they save? How much did the market change for Reily Reiff? And that's another thing too. Like, Schofield is a vet minimum guy. Like, what took you that long to make that signing? Like, why couldn't you do it earlier? I don't understand. Maybe they thought someone was going to get cut early or something, like first shakeup, someone had extra linemen that they were targeting. I'm not sure, and they needed extra depth at other positions. So maybe one of those guys gets released and they can get someone cheap and young. I don't know what they were thinking, but to me, it's just like the timing of it is stupid. I like I said, the first red flag was how Poles handled the offensive line. It's still there, but I guess we do got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, he was supposed to be a major constructor of redoing that whole offensive line. You think, like, they lost both their tackles in KC, lost one of their guards, I believe, and still came back and had one of the better offensive lines. So sure, it helps when you have some of the best weapons out there and you're getting the ball out of your hands quick. And you have an incredible quarterback. Like, yeah, I'm sure all that helps, but I don't know. I just didn't like the way it was handled up until this point. Now I'm happy it happened, but that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, no, it all panned out. You know, I mean, obviously there was a lot of worry about that early on, but it all panned out, and it gives this team options. That's kind of the number one thing, man. We just need versatility up front. You know, we really like guys like Braxton Jones. We really like Tevin Jenkins, Larry Borum. You know, there's quite a few offensive linemen, obviously, that we targeted in this draft, and that's supposed to be Ryan Poles' specialty if we're looking at what he did with his NFL career. So, but we can't gamble that. We need sure things. That's like signing Jason Peters last year. We really liked Larry Borum in camp last year, but we needed that guy. You know what I mean? We needed that guy in case all else failed and people didn't take the steps they were supposed to. You need fail safes. You know what I mean? Like, every team in sports has a fail safe at certain positions. That's like, hey, this isn't the best guy in the world. He's not a world beater. He's not an all pro. And we have a young guy that we probably like a little bit more, but we need this guy to fall back on. And that feels like what both these signings were. But moving
and
forward,
even still, we don't even have a ton of depth. Like I just said, what happens if Reily Reiff goes down and now they have to bounce Borum over to left, or who knows, like Borum over to left and Jenkins over to right, or I don't even know what's going on with Tevin Jenkins because he's still getting the dog treatment from what I've heard and working as more of a swing tackle, which it could be an expanded role. It could be something that they need for running the ball efficiently. You know what I mean? Like, especially if they're trying to be an outside zone team. But like, what did I say? Like, we still, like, if there's a couple major injuries, like, you're back with Sam Mustipher. So like, it's great, but there isn't the depth that we need or desire at this moment in time. It just feels like, okay, Justin Fields isn't going to get killed week 1 through 3, you know?
yeah. And, you know, I've said before, and it's impossible to deny to a certain extent. I mean, I've said before that I feel like the worry of Tevin Jenkins is like a little media driven. And I got that a little bit out of what Matt Eberflus said today as well when asked about Tevin Jenkins. It seems like he was more frustrated by the question more than he is the player. It seems like Eberflus was just really frustrated today, honestly, by most of the media questions, if I'm being totally honest with you. But it seems like the biggest thing I want to see from Tevin, and I want to see this when we go to training camp, it's going to be like the number one thing that I want to see is how is he utilized? What is he doing when he's on the sidelines? What does he look like? What type of shape is he in? Like, is he dogging at the end of plays? Like, I want to see, like, if there is doubt within the organization of Tevin Jenkins, I want to start to learn why. You know what I mean? I want to see if these are things that are fixable. Like, is it that his footwork is terrible? Is it that he's insanely undisciplined up front? Is he overly aggressive to the point where he's missing assignments? Like, because like when you look at Tevin Jenkins, you know, even looking at his film last year where he looked really fucking bad at times. There's no denying that. But you would think that with the talent coming out that you could chalk that up a little bit to how bad the scheme was. Because, I mean, you're looking at other positions. You look at, you know, an Allen Robinson's lack of production. You look at how Justin Fields' final numbers looked last year. You kind of look at the offense and the scheme they were playing it, and you kind of peg that as what that was. You know, the Allen Robinson thing, that's kind of up for interpretation, but that's for conversation for another day. But like, is Tevin held to that same standard, or is he just legitimately in the doghouse for things that we haven't seen yet? Because it feels like it kind of started in OTAs. It seems like before that they weren't really too concerned about Tevin Jenkins, but since he hasn't been seen with the starters, that's where it started to come. So I'm really interested to see what it is. I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to number 76, and I'm going to pay a lot of attention to these rotations. Like, who is Tevin Jenkins out there? Like, if he's not playing with first team, who is he out there with? You know what I mean? What are we considering first team? Because the biggest thing that Matt Eberflus has brought up throughout the entire process, and this is going back to like last month, is that the current situation on the offensive line is fluid. You know, it's very like, we don't know who's going to be playing where yet. Like, we don't know who we want to kick inside. Like, I thought it was funny that he got really confrontational when he got asked if Tevin's a guy that they're considering like kicking inside. Actually, if you haven't seen the press conference, I highly recommend seeing this part, because Matt was like, who'd you have this discussion with? Like, he was very like, where did this come from? Like, did you talk to me about this? And it was like, okay, so Eberflus is obviously sick of the Tevin Jenkins conversation.
Dude, I will say, like, because he does seem like real smiley and an airhead. Like, those are the motherfuckers that snap. You know what I mean? Like, he seems like he's way too happy all the time to not have that counter piece. And that's one thing I'm going to definitely be watching, is the aneurysms of like Matt Eberflus and some of these coaches when we're in training camp. And then I do think I'm going to dedicate most of my time to watching the O-line, because at the end of the day, dude, like, we're not saying Super Bowl Super Bears this year. You know, I do think I feel a lot better about the total. I think their total in Vegas is 6.5. Like, I feel pretty good about them winning 7 games now, because realistically, with a good offensive line, a great running game, and a top 15 defense with the schedule that the Bears have right now, like, they should win 7 games if they're not shooting themselves in the foot. We don't know, you know. But I do think that Eberflus, you can tell he's got that crazy. You know how like Matt Nagy used to say, like, oh yeah, if I have to go dark, I will. Like, they've seen the dark side. Like, he's a bitch. Like, I think Matt Eberflus has a little bit more pizzazz to him when he gets pissed off. I think people's kind of ears will perk up.
So actually, now that you brought that up, that actually brings up something I was thinking about yesterday.
The brown eye?
Jalen Johnson. What'd you
Okay.
say?
No, when I said the dark side, I said the brown eye.
Oh no, I was thinking of fucking. I was kind of just comparing where we were last year compared to where we were now, because Jalen Johnson was talking about how much accountability has been brought already with this coaching staff, and how defense coordinator, fucking head coach, everybody, they're going at people in film. You know what I mean? Like, they're calling people out for the issues that, you know, the problems or the mistakes that they're making, kind of like how I just made 3 right there. They're really going at these guys for any little thing, and that's kind of the sense of like looking for perfection, and that's something that very obviously wasn't here in Chicago for the last few years. You know, I think we talked about it, which, you know, wherever we were recording together before, we were always talking about the accountability of Matt Nagy.
The accountability buddy. You needed an accountability buddy.
Exactly, and like, there's a big difference between Matt Eberflus ripping your asshole out and showing it to you during film, and Matt Nagy handing you a piece of paper saying we're suspending you and we're going to fine you.
You know, when you said ripping your asshole out, you know what that reminded me of is the Dave Chappelle on Blue Street. Do the gut and eyes move where he's like, ah. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's the blood and the guts all in the ground.
Well, dude, it's like there's already so much of a difference. Like, when we're hearing this from players, like, most players aren't trying to admit that they're getting chewed out in meetings. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
Jalen.
I'm sorry to be an asshole again, but I don't want to forget this, because, like, now that we're on Dave Chappelle, doesn't Kyler Gordon give you Dave Chappelle Prince vibes? Like, just a tiny bit.
Oh my gosh, with the hair?
With the hair and everything, he reminds me of Dave Chappelle playing Prince so much, dude.
I mean, dude, if we have Prince in the slot, we have Prince in the slot, man.
I'll take it, dude. Prince was an icon. So if he's anywhere near as good at Prince as Prince was at music, if Kyler Gordon is nearly as good at playing cornerback, the guy's going to be a fucking first ballot Hall of
Famer. Yeah, no shit. Which honestly, another kind of cool nugget from the Matt Eberflus press conference today was he was talking about how he thinks Kyler Gordon can play every position in the secondary. He's talking about how he was moving him inside today and during OTAs, moving him outside. He believes he could play safety as well. Like, he loves what he's getting from Kyler Gordon. He did say he doesn't want to like overwhelm him by just playing him everywhere. But I think it is kind of cool to see that Kyler Gordon can play anywhere, because that gives you the ability that if Kyler Gordon ends up being that good as kind of he's been advertised to be. He comes off as a guy who will follow the best wide receiver on the field, and that's
I don't know if you remember this. I'm going to have to go back and clip it, but I said that exact thing. I was like, Kyler Gordon's going to be the type that's going to follow people into the slot, whereas Jalen Johnson isn't. It was like 4 episodes ago. I will find that shit and clip it.
Yeah, no, seriously, do it, because I really think that's kind of showing with his versatility.
He's uber athletic, bro. It's not normal. Like, he's a different kind of athlete.
Yeah, well, dude, honestly, it's those Washington secondary guys. Like, I feel like there's always like one that comes out every couple years that you're just like, wow, like this guy, there's no business he shouldn't be a first round pick, and then they usually end up falling to the second or third round and end up having pretty solid NFL careers. But yeah, I think that also bodes well with a guy like Thomas Graham, who actually, has some experience playing outside in both college and even last year when we needed him to. Obviously, that's somebody you're going to want to see more inside than outside. But if it hits a situation where like a team comes out in a certain package and say like you have Odell Beckham in the slot, just as a broad example, you can put Kyler Gordon there and still have Thomas Graham on the outside and not think that you're losing something. You know what I mean? So that bodes incredibly well. And that kind of speaks to, what we talked about on the last show with the slot corner battle that we're going to have coming up. That's that having Kyler Gordon be able to play inside adds an interesting dynamic to that, because you almost want to think that your slot corner, just for the sake of keeping the same guys on the field as much as you can, you kind of want that slot corner guy to be able to play outside a little bit. So I think that bodes really well for Thomas Graham.
Yeah, it does. I'm sorry. I went to unmute myself and took myself out of the stream. But no, I think it does. But I also think it kind of bodes well for Kindle Vildor as well. We'll see, because it seems like they've been giving him a lot more opportunities. And that's a guy I always thought was better for the slot, and then actually played outside. So maybe if Vildor is more or just better at playing outside than Graham is, and they're really going to want Kyler to travel, then maybe they want someone with that outside experience. You know what I mean? So that is outside first before slot for, maybe he gets a start in a random game like if they play the Rams and Cooper Kupp's their main guy running onto the slot. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like I love the secondary. Like, it went from one of the weakest parts of the team to one of the strongest. I do think secondary is probably going to be the second most watched position group for me, at least in training camp.
Yeah, no, and I think it shows how much it's improved when we haven't really even brought up like a guy like Eddie Jackson, which I know is a guy that like quite a few people are pretty low on, especially from last year. But I think it's going to show how much more he's going to be elevated now that he's not the fucking, in a sense, the only cook in the kitchen back there. You know what I mean? Because it was hitting a lot of points where it's like, obviously Eddie Jackson's seen on plays that are, going down the field, but that's usually because he's kind of the last defense at that point. That's just kind of how bad our secondary was as a whole last year, especially when Jalen Johnson wasn't in the game. But yeah, no, that's actually a pretty good point about Kindle Vildor. We did talk about this when we were talking about the slot corner battle as well. He's going to get opportunities. It's going to be, is he going to finally show the potential that he was drafted for? You know what I mean? Because I feel like when he was drafted, Kindle Vildor was one of the most talked about guys throughout that entire draft class. Like, people were insanely high on him. I liked him as well. It was hard not to like him just looking at his athleticism at the position, while having a little bit of physicality. Like, he looks like he should be a starting corner in the NFL. It's just all about bringing it together. It's all about mentally being there, knowing your assignments, knowing where you're going to be in the zone, knowing about what you need to see from the offense to see what you're going to pick up or what you're going to let go to the safety. Like, there's a lot of different aspects that could go into account there. And I think that's something that he had problems with last year, was miscommunications with the safety in particular. And potentially the guy who just signed on the dotted line, Jaquan Brisker, hopefully he can really help a guy like that if we were to see Kindle Vildor on the field.
I truly do think Eddie Jackson's going to have a bounce back year. Like, everything's in line for him to have a bounce back year. And if he doesn't, they have to cut him. They're not going to have a trade candidate for him. That's for sure. Not at his number. So it's kind of shit or get off the pot for Eddie Jackson. Like, yeah, 2017 was incredible. 2018 was even better. 2019, you got robbed a couple times on some plays that they took away from you. But 2020 and 2021 were both not very good for Eddie Jackson. And I will say he gets fought, like, because he is that last guy on the screen trailing behind someone running for a touchdown. Like, dude, there are so many times where corners miss their zone or the other safety, the strong side safety, misses their coverage. Like, there are so many times where the free safety gets kind of the bad image while someone else fucking misses their assignment. So, and that's why I can't trust a PFF grading system, because it's like you don't know what their coverage is. You don't know what their drop is, dude. So how can you say that they missed their drop if you don't know what the fuck it is? Like, there are all different types of disguises, different ways. You could drop into cover 3 fucking 45 different ways. You could have your strong safety and free safety come up and play the flats while your corners drop back, and you know what I mean? Or have your free safety drop back and have your linebackers covering the flats. Like, there's so many different ways to play different coverages. Whereas if you don't know the actual playbook and what their responsibility is, it's impossible to give them a grade on that fucking play. And it's all objective. It's some dickhead, for lack of a better term, like, not saying that we don't know what we're talking about, but some dickhead like you or me is the one going through that tape and making those decisions and giving those grades. It's not like some fucking foolproof analytics team that's going and like discussing it as a boardroom and making sure, and like it's not like they're looping in the coaches type shit. You know what I mean?
Well, and let's be very clear. Like, I mean, I don't want to just sit here and shit on PFF, because honestly, we could probably make an entire episode just completely breaking down everything wrong with that company. But the biggest thing that really bugs me about PFF is it's not analytics. I hate when that word gets brought up with PFF. I actually used to get in an argument with a certain Twitter account because they used to claim that PFF was analytics when it's just simply not the same thing. I watch a lot of fucking baseball. I can tell you what advanced analytics are, and I can tell you that there's a way to prove every single one of them. Like, there are formulas to prove every single one of those advanced analytics in a sport like baseball. When you get to PFF, that is not the same thing. There is nothing. I can't say nothing, but there's very little to prove to the final grade that they get there outside of personal opinion. There is far too much human error in PFF grades, which is why I don't take them seriously. And I thought you described it very well, specifically when it comes to not knowing what's happening on a certain play. It's hard to tell without context, without knowing the exact play call, the exact coverage, who's supposed to cover where, because every defense is different in one way or another. It's impossible.
It could be something as little as a uncovered guard running to the second level because that's his responsibility, and then the guy that was closest to his right makes the tackle, and they're like, well, he was supposed to block that guy. No, that wasn't his fucking responsibility. It was Sam Mustipher who got his shit rocked. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever it may be. So that's why and like, I don't want to get off topic because we kind of got to keep it pretty tight here, but like, baseball I got to board a flight in like 27 minutes, but baseball analytics the advanced analytics are incredible. Like that's a different level of analytics. Like, there's no way to do that in football. Like, do I think the big throw percentage is cool? Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's cool. I think it's like within 2 yards of the nearest defender and fitting it into a specific window. Like, that's a cool stat. I'm not going to dog everything they do, but at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to come here, it's the same argument as, Adrian Amos grading out better than all of our DBs in 2017 and 2018. Like, no, he's a great player and he's done well in Green Bay. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Eddie Jackson probably needed him more than he needed Eddie Jackson, but his role is also nowhere near as chaotic and has nowhere near as much responsibility as Eddie Jackson. So that's why it's just too much for me to trust someone else that isn't necessarily, like, there is no formula, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, if the closest you guys are going to get to that, and anybody listening, if you want the best spot of where to get your football statistics, if you're looking for a little bit more, PFR and NFL Next Gen Stats, those are going to be your 2 best databases. There is a way you can prove what they're presenting. There is a fucking formula you can actually put in. You can put in numbers. Like, I'm not a math guy. Lucas isn't a math guy. Like, we're self-admitted non-math guys, but there is a formula.
Guy, but not a mathematician.
Yeah, dude, there's a formula that you can prove that why that number is there. And like, that's my biggest thing. If I want to do the eye test, I can do the fucking eye test. Like, I'm not saying I'm a fucking football genius, but I know enough about the game to be able to look at film and know what the fuck I'm looking at, compared to trusting the grade of like 3 different people who are cross-checking. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm looking for, which, whatever, if you love PFF, that's certainly your prerogative, but you're
not as educated as the rest of the people that are actually analyzing football. I'll go ahead and dog you.
You probably listen to this show on Google Play. If in all honesty,
if you use it supplementally, totally cool. like as a supplement, just to be like, hey, yeah, this is what I'm seeing. Like, let me try to verify it. Cool, that's fine. But if you're using that as the basis of your argument, I don't have respect for your sports takes. You as a human being might be a great guy, but great guy or girl or non-binary. But as a football analyst or as a football taker, I don't respect you. Plain and
Yeah,
simple.
no, 100%. And Al, you make a very good point here. I do want to go a little bit from the PFF talk because, like I said, we could probably trash him for an entire episode if we really wanted to. Maybe that's 2023 offseason talk for you. But so one thing we haven't talked about yet so far, and it's kind of the biggest story in the room right now, for being totally honest with you, and it's the Roquan Smith situation. You know, it's impossible to ignore. I know for a fact I was pretty worked up about the announcement of him holding out. I've been kind of annoyed. This is probably what's annoyed me most about Poles, probably even more than the offensive line, is that we have this all-pro linebacker heading into his 5th year, last year of his contract, a guy who has done nothing but be a team guy, who has been just a model of consistency, even with the defense falling off the past few years, if we're being totally honest. Like, he has been the model of consistency for the Chicago Bears. Probably just honestly the entire team, if we're being totally honest. Like, he has been a guy who showed up every single day. Didn't matter what was being presented in front of him. He handled it with a great attitude. And this is a guy who, for whatever reason, cannot get a long-term contract before the start.
And he always produced. That's the key, right? Not even just a rah-rah guy. He produced.
Yeah, no, and that's the biggest thing, man. What do you do on the field? And I think just from seeing him missing a couple games towards the end of, I believe it was 2019 or 2020. I think he got injured towards the end of the year. Just seeing the dip off without him was noticeable enough for me to realize how important Roquan Smith is to this defense. And apparently that's a guy, for whatever reason, who cannot get a new deal before training camp. And that is extremely frustrating.
Well, and it's frustrating too. And like, it doesn't make me, to be honest, like, I feel like it's got to be more of a disrespectful offer on the Bears side than it is Roquan Smith. Because, like, we remember Roquan Smith holding out his rookie training camp and him not being happy about it, him kind of telling his agent, like, I need to get on the fucking field. You know what I mean? And then him missing some time and kind of having to slowly, obviously his first play was a sack, and that's how he introduced himself to us. But, on fucking Aaron Rodgers, like, you can't ask for much more. But, he missed a couple weeks there of training camp, and that did slow him down and give him the slower starts of the year. And it's like, you don't want that to happen again this year, especially in a year where, like, you're not going to be able to let games slip out of your hands because you don't have your best defensive player. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why I don't think it's on Roquan, because, like, Roquan Smith, if I'm not mistaken, fired his agent partially because of how his rookie contract was handled and them going through. So we're not doing that today because I'll miss my flight.
I just wanted to toss it on there so the viewers.
I just don't think he even comes close to warranting two firsts and a second. Like, if he does it,
just keep going on your last point. You were rolling.
No, yeah, but I don't think it's him. I think it's the Chicago Bears disrespecting him, and I think the biggest issue I have with it, because I do think the deal is going to get done. I think Roquan Smith will be a Chicago Bear for the next 4 to, who knows, 8 years. Like, I truly believe that. But you had one fucking deal to get done. Like, you weren't dealing with James Daniels, who was in his last year, and you had to get the deal done before free agency opened up or whatever. Like, you traded Mac before the fucking before the draft. You made your decisions on James Daniels, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman. Like, all of this was done. You had one contract in-house that you had to take care of. One. And you didn't fucking get it done. And I don't care if he's asking for $20 million and you're trying to, or $22 million and you're trying to give him 17 or 18, like, fuck that $5 million, bro. Fuck it. It's not going to be an issue. Right now, it's not an issue. Like, they have so much money on the books. I don't care if it only lasts for 3 days of training camp. It should have been fucking done, point blank, period. I don't know if it's because Poles, like I said, has been sleeping till 2 p.m. Like, I don't know what the deal is, if he's not able to just get his work done in that 8-hour day, because it seems that he's hibernating all the time. But, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I hate Ryan Poles, but the way he is operated in terms of this Roquan Smith contract and how he has signed the O-line, like, I'm not saying he needs to be on my timeline, but don't be on a fucking idiot. Like I said, like, you're missing valuable time with the team, right? Like, we could have already figured out, hey, Is Tevin Jenkins going to be mainly working out at swing tackle? What if Reily Reiff went somewhere else? Like, what if you don't get him? You were planning on getting him and trying to let the price tag fall. Like, what happens if you don't get him? Then what do you do? Like, I'm sure they have backup plans. These guys are fucking GMs and scouts, but like, move with a little. I'm just so used to the deliberate actions of Ryan Pace, right? Like, he was very deliberate in the way he moved. You knew, like, that, hey, if there was a problem, he was going to try to solve it. I don't have that same confidence. Like, the Bears alone should not have had to wait, like you said, learning playbooks and stuff like that. Two of these guys that you signed a day before training camp are probably going to be your starters. Like, dude, why? What's the delay, bro? One's a veteran minimum guy. What the fuck is the delay? What is taking so long to sign someone to a minimum contract? Why are you deciding between him and one other guy? Because there's not enough depth. Pay them fucking both. We can get rid of Sam Mustipher. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, the entire situation right now with these three contracts doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I'm glad we got Schofield and Reiff. Obviously, we already discussed that quite a bit. But like, why is this being played along? You know what I mean? Like, why is Poles not handling this? I kind of like the Vanilla Ice verse that you dropped in there, and it's kind of what I want from Ryan Poles. If you got a problem, why solve it? Like, that's what I want Ryan Poles to do. We have fucking problems. We have offensive line problems. We have fucking we have a giant Roquan Smith problem right now that needs to get handled. Why did Jaquan Brisker get fucking wait so long to sign him? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things that are already popping up as red flags. And like, I want to clear up that, like, and Lucas, we talked about this the other day. Like, I really like Matt Eberflus. Like, my issue isn't with Matt Eberflus here, because this is not his department. He is very much a football guy. You know what I mean? Like, that is the only thing he's worried about. My issue is, why isn't Ryan Poles getting this locked up? Like, if you want to start building a foundation, that foundation starts with Roquan Smith, especially on the defensive side of the football. Like, this is a guy who is doing the unheard of, mind you. Like, this is something that isn't getting talked about enough. Roquan Smith is holding out contract-wise. He's not playing on the field. He is still at Hallis Hall. He is still in meetings. He is still conversing with his teammates and his coaches. That's unheard of for an all-pro player playing on the last year of his deal at 25 years old, mind you. Roquan isn't an old guy. I know he's been around for a while, but I feel like people really lose sight that Roquan is only 25 fucking years old.
He's never truly gotten paid before. Like, his rookie contract was good as the number 8 pick, or what was he, number 8, number 7? But like,
number 8.
He hasn't gotten his big payday. Like, anyone else would be like, fuck this team. They take everything down for that affiliated the Chicago Bears. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they would be like playing way harder ball than what Roquan Smith's doing. And that's why I want him on this team. That's why I've loved him, because that's Roquan. That's how he is. He wants to play ball more than anything. Like, yeah, there's a business aspect of it, but you could tell he's a football first guy. There are guys out there that would retire if their contract wasn't right. You know what I mean? He's not one of them. Like, I truly believe if there was a huge cut to the salary cap and everyone only gets $1 million a year, you'd weed out 50% of the NFL, and Roquan Smith would want to be one of those guys still standing.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. And that's why I feel like him and Matt Eberflus, like, I want to see them together, working together while Roquan is in pads, because like, everything is just showing that these guys are just going to be fucking best friends. You know what I mean?
And
like,
you know what else?
Like,
too?
I'm getting like big. Hold on, I'm getting like big Brian Urlacher, Lovie Smith vibes from these two. Like, I feel like that's how much they can really vibe on a defense, and that just keeps an open conversation in the defensive fucking coaches room, where like Roquan can start kind of giving some input on what he wants to see from the defense. You know what I mean? Because I think he is that smart. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why you have a guy who is so damn dedicated to not only football, but the Chicago Bears. Obviously, he's honestly pulling a fucking Jose Abreu when Jose Abreu's contract expired for the White Sox. And he basically was like, you guys are going to have to kick me fucking out of here. You're going to get this deal done. Like, I'm not going anywhere. We just need to get this fucking deal done. And it feels like, that's what Roquan is. Obviously, he wants to take care of himself. In his position, he'd be crazy not to take care of himself. But he also understands the Chicago Bears have money. He wants to be here. It needs to get done.
You know how crazy that is, that he does want to be here? This team is fucking going through a straight rebuild. And like, to me, that's why I'm upset it hasn't gotten done. Not only is there a higher risk for injury now, because anyone that say this goes on 2 weeks now and he's not working out is whatever, like you're at a much higher risk for cramping up, pulling a hamstring, anything like that, and then go ahead and missing the first 2 weeks. So that's my first concern. My second concern is for the future operation of Ryan Poles. Like, is he only sitting on his hands and taking his sweet ass fucking time and not being deliberate in his actions because it's a rebuilding team and it really doesn't matter that much this year? Because like, or is this how he's going to always operate? Because if he's always operating like this, like what happens when you're pushing for a Super Bowl? You know what I mean? Like, and you're missing out on some of these top tier free agents or some of these top tier draft players that you could have moved up 3 spots and gotten at a position of need, but you're too fucking, stubborn to move up or stray from your plan. Like, that's my biggest concern. Like, right now, the timing of things doesn't matter, but what happens in 3 years from now when the Bears are trying to make a push for the Super Bowl? Because we saw KC was shining juju. KC, like, they found out right away, okay, fucking, we don't have 2 tackles. We're trading for, like, these things happened quickly in the offseason. It wasn't like they fucking waited till training camp started to start solving their problems. We're talking about big holes here. We're not talking about we're talking about protecting your number one asset in Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Gapers, dude.
But yeah, dude, that's like the biggest thing. And to that point, like the rest of the league will notice this. Like other GMs will play Ryan Poles like a fucking fiddle if they continue to see him sitting on his hands, like with fucking stuff like this. Like, thank you, Alap. You perfectly brought up my fucking point here. Like,
well, and if I had to pick one, I'd pick Pace.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, mentality. But like you need a balance. You need a fucking balance because as much as we were Ryan Pace guys, like Pace would go a little overboard sometimes with how aggressive he was, and we just saw it.
As we didn't. Let's be real. Every offseason he was too aggressive.
I was gonna say, dude, and we saw it because we didn't have a first round pick this last year. Luckily, yeah. I will give Poles credit. It looks like his draft ended up working out pretty well, especially with the first 3 picks. Velas looks like a steal, obviously, because Velas is going to be a fucking future All-Pro.
He should have. So. I feel bad for the Bucks because like they got a fake Velas Jones at this point.
Dude, I still don't think, even with Julio signing with Tom Brady, I don't think he's tweeted since.
I saw he tweeted on June 22nd. He didn't actually tweet himself though; it was a retweet. But I was very disappointed. And it's funny too because his last tweet was almost a year before that, and he retweeted some charity thing. It had nothing to do with him being better than Velus Jones. He knows not to do that. He knows not to step out of his lane.
That's a tuck tweet, man. That's a tuck retweet. You can't be retweet, man. You got.
It's funny you say that. I checked that today. I literally checked today when I saw. That's yesterday, whenever the signing happened.
I mean, he could have just came out and been like, I am the best Jones in the NFL. Really put your gabagool on the table, but no, whole lot of nothing. But yeah, I guess just kind of finishing up that point, like. These are things that should be handled. You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool with the camp body getting signed right now because, like, I kind of had a feeling that's what we were going to do. But, like, Roquan Smith, you got to handle that, man. You know what I mean? And even, like, we were talking about it before the show, kind of to a lesser extent, like, why does nobody, including Robert Quinn, know what the hell is going on with Robert Quinn? You know what I mean? Like, even in his press conference, he kind of didn't quite know how to answer questions because he didn't know, do I commit? Like, obviously he's going to say he wants to be here because he showed up for camp. You know what I mean? He's going to be a team player. He doesn't want to look like he's someone who's going to force his way out, but like it didn't come off like someone who's been having open discussions with the front office to be like, hey, what's my future look like? Because I feel like if you go to Robert Quinn and you're like, listen, this is the current state of our team. We might move you at the deadline. If somebody comes calling, we're going to send you to a contender, who's giving us a good offer. And I feel like a guy with Robert Quinn at this point in his career would be like, yeah, man, no problem. I'm going to play perfect fucking citizen. We're going to act like everything's status quo. But like, if that's what they're trying to do, that's not working very well because Robert Quinn sounded very stagnant in his interview today. Sounded very Robert Quinn-esque. If you've seen enough Robert Quinn interviews where he kind of seemed like, I'm here. I'm glad I signed here for a reason. I want to be a Chicago Bear. I obviously you just broke the sack record. The fan base loves him. Even the fan base that wants to trade him, Robert, if you're hearing this, like, we love you too. But like, it's more or less like, why isn't our front office being more transparent with our players? And that's another issue I could see coming down the line because that was something, as much as we loved Ryan Pace, that wasn't something he quite did very well either. And that's something that could bode not very well for future guys coming into this roster, or potentially guys coming to their second contract, as we're seeing with Roquan Smith. So yeah, man, I know most of the Bears podcasts out there are, sucking Ryan Poles dry and all that fun stuff. And that's great. Like, if you guys want to be positive, that's fine. But like, me and Lucas are going to keep it real here.
I'm just
like,
reacting to what I see. Right. And like, I'm not sitting here saying, like I said, I'm not sitting here like casting him off or saying, I don't think he's a quality. We don't know enough, but me reacting to what I've seen so far, it's not good. It's not very good. That's all.
Yeah, the optics are not great. It's feeling like a very much.
I also
Chicago
did
Bears
say
GM.
though, I am giving him a mulligan year to do what he's got to do in terms of salary cap. Because Pace did fuck the salary cap in every which way. So I do understand, like, hey, listen, you needed a reset year, but I don't know. I guess I can't complain anymore. I asked for that guy, and I got that guy. I got him later than I wanted.
Yeah, no,
I'm just happy we finally fucking acknowledged the most. Because while everyone freaked out about right guard on Twitter, people were jumping down my throat for saying, hey, dude, why do you care about the right guard? We had Rashad Coward playing right guard. We had Sam Mustipher jumping in at center. Like, why are you worried about the fucking least important position on our offensive line when they still don't have a left tackle? And everyone's like, well, at least we know Larry Borum's name. Sure, you didn't know it before fucking last year, though. You weren't sitting there watching Missouri football, pounding your shit to fucking Larry Borum highlights.
It's funny because I know exactly.
Like, it's just insane.
I know
to me,
exactly
dude.
who you're referring to with that. So incredible.
You wouldn't be. There's a lot of people that actually said that to me, but like, you wouldn't be referring to Larry Borum like that if he was playing for the Vikings. You'd be like, oh, some 5th round pick that got a shit rocked in the second half of the year. Why are you depending on him? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, in the grand scheme of things, dude. And you ask anyone else in the NFL, who the fuck is Larry Borum? You know what I mean? And that's exactly it. Yeah, that's an incredible point. Like, we didn't have left tackle short up. Like, I think right guard really got me worried because I know who these guys are, and Sam Mustipher out of all of them worried me the most because, like, at this point, I feel like we've seen enough of Sam Mustipher. I mean, I don't know if everyone's seen enough. I know a lot of people watching Sam Mustipher film, but like, I'm good on that. I've seen enough.
How upset do you think Olin Kreutz is right now?
Hey, I didn't want to say the name, but I appreciate you dropping.
What is he gonna do? Just yell at us? Like, he can choke me out if he wants to. I'm fine with it. I'd have no problem being choked out by a Bears legend.
Would that not be an incredible story? Like at a fucking cookout or a bar one day, be like, yeah, you might think you're fucking. You might think you're cool talking to a fucking 4-piece over there, but like, I got choked out by Olin Kreutz, bro.
I got choked out by Olin Kreutz for making fun of his boyfriend.
But yeah, no, I feel like we covered a good chunk of it. I guess from there, just because Lucas is running a little tight, I'm sure airport.
We're gonna film a few. We're gonna record a few before the end of this week, right? Because we're both going to training camp. Or were you saving that for any special occasion? Or are you gonna announce that?
Well, yeah, that's what I was just about to do. I was gonna make a joke about TSA. Like,
I'm sorry, I fucked you.
Giving you a cavity search potentially because you don't have all the buttons up on your polo, but
I could only hope.
But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of we alluded to at the beginning of the top of the podcast. Lucas, you're going to be there tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be live tweeting from the Reily Reiff pod. We'll see how many videos I'm able to share. Hopefully that the Chicago Bears don't let me. Also, just going to preemptively apologize to anyone in the Reagan or the Reagan or Reagan, however you want to say it, airport that may have been recorded in the backdrop. It wasn't focused on you. We are not monetizing, so please don't try to sue us if you see yourself in the background of this recording. Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to put that disclosure out there.
But dude, honestly, that dude who was mean mugging you earlier, like, I don't care. I wouldn't give him a dime. Like, I would battle him in court. But
don't try to get all the autographs at that. I won't even try to get a picture, dude. I mean, I'm so fat right now, it's not even worth trying to take a picture in public with my favorite players because I'm going to make them look small.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I might bring some like fucking some like Pitbull fucking glasses to try to wear and get a picture with Tevin Jenkins, but I highly doubt that'll happen.
I'm gonna be that weirdo.
You're not Tevin Jenkins, Travis Gibson. My bad. That's my boy.
No, I'm gonna be a weirdo. I'm gonna be pretending like I'm a scout. Like in my mind, I'm gonna be like, yeah, no, I'm here to scout this practice because I actually work for the XFL Ballers or whatever one of those teams' names are, and like I'm looking for some guys that get cut from training camp. Like that's how I'm treating it. I'm treating it like I'm a damn scout.
Dude, you should go to a Goodwill and try to find like a fucking like a Comcast Sportsnet polo or something like that.
Dude, a Comcast Sportsnet polo and like a straight up fanny pack and just like have binoculars in it. Be
Yeah.
incredible. Maybe I'll shave everything and just have a mustache too.
Just tell people you used to produce the freaking Mike North and Dan Jiggett show.
That's great. That got me. That's a perfect way to end it. So yeah, I'll be live tweeting from the Barely There podcast. Make sure you're following us. If you're seeing us on YouTube and you want some live updates, like create a little Twitter account if you're not a Twitter guy. You know, just it's nice. There's actually a ton of good accounts that you're going to be able to follow and see.
Yeah. Also to that point, actually, because I'll kind of drive us home here. Me and Lucas are actually going to be there together on Friday as well, so we'll definitely be able to get some really good content. Be sure to follow the Barely There Twitter account at Barely There Pod. Be sure to follow me and Lucas, of course. And also we have a giveaway. We didn't really talk about this too much on the podcast last time, but like, we are giving away a customized Barely There t-shirt, like one of a kind. Like, we've already been like sending back and forth some designs. Like, it is going to be the most like shitbag design ever. You are going to want this t-shirt. We're trying to give away a hat as well. Ironically, me and Lucas aren't wearing Bears hats today, but we actually both bought the hat that we shared in that tweet, and it's actually pretty sharp, the camouflage training cap hat, or as I like to call it,
you pick if you want the flex fit or the snapback too.
Yeah, for sure. I like to call it the Luke Getzey hat. So, I mean, you can walk around thinking you're an offensive guru, maybe even pick up like a Waffle House menu. And then if we get to a certain amount of followers as well, we're going to be giving away a jersey, and we will let you pick the player. Like, I put a Justin Fields jersey up there, or a Roquan or somebody. Like, we'll let you pick it. It might not be sewn on, but it'll still be pretty nice. You know, you could tell people, maybe you could sew on like one of those like inaugural seasons at Soldier Field patches and feel really cool or something. I don't know. But like, we have to hit a follower count. You got to follow us on the Twitter account. You got to retweet it. We're going to be retweeting that shit all week, so you'll be able to see it. But yeah, dude, free stuff. Like, you can't beat that. But anyway,
Before you close us out, one last thing. I know it's kind of late, but I do have an extra ticket to training camp. So if any of you listeners have the day off tomorrow or don't work on Thursdays, and you want to go ahead and join me, we don't even have to sit next to each other. I just don't want it to go to waste. So just DM me, or like, say you want to go with a group of 5 of your buddies and they only have 4 tickets. Seriously, hit me up. I'm more than willing to give it away. Just shoot me a DM and you know, I'll meet you at the front to let them scan your ticket for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I actually might have one extra ticket for Friday, depending on if the person who comes with us follows through or not. I'm not gonna hold my breath on that quite yet, but yeah, for sure. And if you see me and Lucas on Friday, or if you see Lucas on Thursday, like, dude, walk up and shoot the shit. You know, we're pretty approachable guys. I feel like we'll talk ball with anybody. You know, we might be dickheads on Twitter sometimes, but seriously, we're nice guys. You know, we got no problem talking.
I'll be the fat kid with his hamburger meat hanging out, so come find me.
Yeah, 100%. And if you buy Lucas like a hot dog or something like that, it'll probably be your best friend for like an hour. But anyway, at that point, we're going to close up shop because Lucas has a flight to catch. He's got to get back home to sweet home Chicago. Be sure to follow us. Follow me, Duke Coughlin at That Pod Guy Duke. Follow Lucas at LucasFreddy46. If you don't have Twitter, start a burner account. Prove to me who you are, and we'll get you set up in that contest if you win it. You know what I mean? But on that note, we will see you guys very soon. Hopefully at some point next week, or even this weekend. Maybe we'll pop a live stream and get some people talking. But until then, training camp is here in Bear Down.
Bear down.